Well, apologies that I have not been around much lately. I've been very busy working on my house. I ripped out the banister and I've been putting a new one in and totally underestimated the amount of painting required. Oops. Now today I decided to relax, went down the beach, got slightly sunburnt because I only wear factor 15 suntan lotion and didn't put enough on. Also nearly suffered dehydration on the 50-minute walk back to the car when I ran out of water. So that was a good day. Anyway, the news from a couple of weeks back is that the BBC are trying to catch people watching the iPlayer without a TV licence. Yes, they have finally closed the loophole because previously you only had to have a TV licence if you watched live over-the-air pictures. iPlayer over the internet was excluded. But now people have been using the iPlayer and getting rid of their TV licence. Me as well, included, although I don't watch iPlayer particularly much, I don't watch the BBC much in general, but more people have been using internet for their TV watching. Probably thank Kodi a bit for that as well. So, what BBC are trying to do is detect people over Wi-Fi who are watching the iPlayer. Now, the Telegraph article is a bit inaccurate. There's more articles around, but no one really seems to know quite how they're going to analyse the packets over Wi-Fi because, by default, most routers nowadays will encrypt using WPA2 encryption. Although most passwords are fairly short by default, between 9 and 12 characters, yes, that is crackable if you've got a bit of time, but then cracking it could also be quite illegal. I think the theory seems to be along the lines of looking at the packet sizes. That is possible, I suppose. You could vary the packet sizes in such a way that really the only thing follow those packet sizes would be an iPlayer stream. Now you could absolutely screw with them and use a preposterously small MTU size, that's the maximum transmission unit. So I believe 68 bytes is the smallest size, that's 8 bytes for the Ethernet packet, and that allows 60 bytes then for the IP packets. Although you require 20 bytes minimum for the IP, then 20 bytes minimum for the I suppose they're using TCP in this case, so yeah, so we're at 48 bytes. That will give you the ability to send 20 bytes of data per packet. So you've got a massive overhead in comparison to where the default MTU size in most cases is about 1500, and I've forgotten the exact number, but it's over 1500. So if you look at the similar comparison again there, so you've got about 48 bytes dedicated to just getting the packet from the server to you. You've got quite a bit more data to play with there. That would absolutely screw them. They would never be able to decode that. Your connection might be a little bit slower. I suppose your other options are you could flood them with data, do a bit of torrenting at the same time. Legal torrents, of course, but distribute some Linux torrents, for instance. They're going to have trouble looking at that when you've got all this other data going on around the network. You could use Ethernet as well, wired Ethernet. Not going to be able to detect that. Now they say about driving this fleet of detection vans around. Now you could think, okay, well, by the time I'm, I don't know, 5 foot away from my house, the Wi-Fi signal has dropped to a ridiculous level, which it pretty much is in my case. It doesn't go through the walls of my house particularly well. So they're going to see that in the van. They have to drive right up my driveway. They're using directional signals here. So with directional antennae, they're using directional antennae here. So being directional, you've got the ability to zoom it and focus to a particular location. Well, that would be exactly what you need for your house, because if you ever look at your Wi-Fi network, you can probably see quite a few other houses, despite the fact your own one doesn't get particularly far outside your house. Like, you can see quite a few. What are the distances like that? I mean, as a basis, you can pretty much double it just from a directional antenna. I have read reports of people transmitting Wi-Fi signals over 1 mile. That would require directional antenna on both ends, not just one end, because remember, your router's just omnidirectional, isn't it? It's transmitting everywhere effectively. Now there is another way of looking at this, and that BBC know which IPs are connecting to them. They do this through this website here called stats.bbc.co.uk, and surprisingly enough, I'm on top of that and I have blocked that from my network. So yes, they know which IPs are connecting to them, but that IP doesn't associate to you. No, they'd have to get a court order each time. Now, can you imagine the BBC having to get a court order for every single IP address that connects to them? Bearing in mind, probably quite a lot are perfectly legal, and people who have paid their license. No, I just don't see that as a viable option. Of course, there are other thoughts. Using a VPN, would that help? Nope. You're still going to have the same combination of packets coming from the VPN to you. Yeah, there'd be a little bit of delay there, so that could fool them slightly if it's a few seconds out, but I'm pretty sure they may have this. So let's say if they're going on packet sizes, that will make a difference. They've got the signature within that stream. Bit of a difficult one to get around. Yeah, there's other alternatives in that you don't use Wi-Fi, or you flood your Wi-Fi with other signals, or you set your MTU size preposterously low and negate any chance they can vary the packet size. Personally, I can just see them getting more and more desperate, really. Why they just don't go to the modern era of charging per item that you watch, or like, I don't know, many other websites do, and quite successfully. That would be sensible. I don't want them to use other models. I can't think of the European countries off the top of my head where they take it directly out of your income. I mean, I'll be funding the BBC, regardless of whether I watch it or not, because this is it. I don't watch it. I don't wish to fund them. And I would like to have that choice of not funding them. But I appreciate people do watch it. So will the detection vans actually exist, or is this all a ruse to make people think the BBC can catch you? Well, now that we don't know. However, it was certainly possible for the BBC to detect when you were watching TV. Now, this was done under a theory known as Tempest, the detection of signals coming out of electrical equipment. Now, I just want to make something perfectly clear. I have never worked for BBC, I have never worked for Capita. Those are the people who do the detection. No. However, I am most certainly aware of how this is done under Tempest, and you can reconstruct what is the output of a monitor of quite some distance away. We're talking several meters here, and the worst one I've known about was 1.5 kilometers away. All you have to do is reconstruct the timing signal. So it's a relatively simple procedure. You do need some expensive equipment, but yeah, that was quite possible how the detection vans were done initially. Now, this was very much doable under the old cathode ray tube TVs and the early days of LCD monitors, but latterly now monitors be getting more and more energy efficient, and that the strength of this signal has dramatically reduced, pretty much rendering this method unviable. Now, I believe it is possible that they could be looking at the light emissions from a room. So if you look at a house at night time, you might be able to see light moving around inside. That you could say it's a high possibility that there is a TV there, negating the fact, of course, it could be a computer monitor, a games console, DVDs, Blu-rays. Needn't be TV. It just there is a monitor and there is a light output from it. That's probably how it was done latterly, and then they would just knock on your door and try and catch you out watching TV. So that was my thoughts on BBC snooping on people's Wi-Fi. So see you all later.